hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, joined by Christy Cash, Anna Burns, and Mike Benelli. Today, we're diving into a side of hockey that doesn't always get enough attention, but we wish it would, the cognitive side, where the brain meets the blade, and our guest today is one of the leading experts in this field. Satoshi Takano is the founder of ReactForge Cognitive Performance Institute. It's a mouthful, but it makes sense. And he's a pioneer in helping athletes train both their minds and their bodies. With a background in engineering and technology, he's developed innovative methods that help players make faster, smarter decisions on the ice. Make no mistake, parents listening, this is a major key to success in the game. So today we're going to explore what hockey IQ really means, how players can train decision-making and awareness, and how coaches and parents can nurture smarter, calmer athletes in today's fast-paced games. That sounds like a recipe that everyone's been looking for. Satoshi, welcome to Our Kids Play Hockey.
I appreciate it, guys. This is awesome. I love the opportunity to talk about stuff like this. So thanks for having me on.
We are so excited to have you on, Satoshi, because we talk about this all the time. But so many parents think the best player on the ice has to be the fastest or has to be the strongest. But as we try to explain, you also have to have hockey IQ. So let's just start with the basics. What is hockey IQ? Why is it so important for your player to gain that sense?
Yeah, so it's a question that I get asked a lot, and it certainly it depends on different situations in terms of what it means. Of course, like at a younger age, you're not really teaching them hockey IQ from a let's sit down and teach it. But at the older ages, you really have to kind of hunker down on things of, especially when you don't have the puck, and 95% of the time you don't have the puck. So where are you in those situations? Are you turning at the right time? Are you getting into those soft areas at the right time? Are you getting into certain situations where you can get the puck? So when you do have it, then obviously the skills that you've been working on with the skills coaches will start to come into play. So the IQ component is really comes down to intelligence. Right. So are you harnessing that intelligence to improve and enhance the skills that you already have? There's really no one answer, but it's really the ability for the players to think faster than the game. So then they know exactly what's going to happen next, and then they're able to get to those locations as the puck comes to them.
Oh, so you said you don't really teach it at an early age, but can you start introducing those concepts to your player at an early age? And how young can you start doing that? And how do you kind of introduce that to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of timely because one of my Instagram posts, I think maybe 2 days ago, I put up something where it's kind of like a roadmap for a player from beginner to pro. And then we incorporate some of the things that you need to, as parents, you need to focus on. And so whether that be just introducing it to young kids, and our youngest kids are 6 years old. Now we sitting down in a classroom and say, okay, we're going to do hockey IQ. Absolutely not. It's really just a matter of being able to gamify for them, to stimulate their brain to capture different types of stimulus, and then they're able to do whatever it is that they need to do. I think the best players in the world, my assumption is that they were exposed to those types of things at a very early age. And so whether that be just through playing with your siblings in the backyard, catching a ball, catching a football, or just running in different directions, I think those are naturally taught, right? Like in those types of environments. But as they get older, now we have to start to focus on, okay, here's a game situation. Here's what you're doing here. Let's make you smarter in a sense of not, for example, just not just getting crowded in and being able to scan the ice, having that situational awareness. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that I think my belief is that you have to play different types of activities. I won't say different sports, but different activities that will allow you to capture that. So in my case, I grew up with kendo, which is a Japanese martial art. It's the one with the swords, and and I was doing that since I was like 5. Since I was 5, and I learned a lot about protecting yourself, but then attacking at the right time, finding those right gaps when they're vulnerable. And that activity, I didn't do it for a long time, but I did it as something to keep my mind going, and it just kind of grew with me. So as time progressed, I grew up, even as a parent, even after I had my son, that these are things that you just naturally kind of captured, right, on your own. But rapidly, I found out that it's not something that everybody has. So that's how we kind of started.
I want to bring this up real quick. and first off, I loved your answer for Hockey IQ. I got to bring this up. We tell kids not to smoke because smoking's bad for your lungs, and they seem to understand that. We tell them you drink too much, it's not a good thing. We say, hey, listen, it's more important you play where the puck isn't when you don't have the puck. And they go, whatever, coach, right? So I want to talk for a few minutes about really to the coaches here, right? And you alluded to this, Satoshi, that what can we do as coaches to start building our own repertoire of drills and understanding of this so that we can help the kids? And I do want to shout out Mike real quick. Mike, you said something several episodes ago that you said it's so simple as you do, right? And it made so much sense to me of, hey, not every drill needs to end with a goal. And that really got me thinking, right? And I'll just give one example, Satoshi, and I'm going to completely throw it to you. One of the drills I've been playing with my younger youth hockey teams recently is called possession. There's no goal scoring. It is literally 3-on-3. The goal is possession, maintain possession. And you can see the IQ developing because when there's no end goal, literally, the game changes. It's just get open. So I would love your thoughts on what coaches can do to expand their drill book of drills like this. And then maybe the importance of this. Because I'm going to say it again. We know not to smoke. We got to have that kind of understanding with Hockey IQ in our game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a couple of things you can do, and maybe before I answer that, I'll give you a little bit of background as to how we kind of got to this point. So I didn't just kind of pick up and in the morning and said, okay, I'm going to work on a Hockey IQ business. This was something that's been in the works for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So I built this whole program and this whole facility around my own son. So he's a 2004 birth year. He's 21 this week. But we started about, thank you. We started when he was about 10 years old. He was highly skilled. He went to every trainer here in Toronto, and they're all great. I love them all. They taught him, the ability for him to stick handle and shoot and do edge work. And, shout out to my mentor too, Dr. Smushkin, because he taught me a whole bunch of different things for agility, and my son also learned from him as well. So he was highly, highly, highly skilled. The problem was he didn't know how to play the game. So being Asian, right? Like we record everything. So I'm always the one guy, with the camera, and everybody else is like, what is he doing? But we would go home and we would, pull up the camera and then we would actually watch the video. And I'd always say, Rio, why are you going this way when the puck is already being turned over? Why are you still back checking here, trying to skate towards the defenseman who's regrouping? That defenseman wants to pass it to you, but you keep skating towards him. And this happens thousands of times with kids. And that little moment is when I said, okay, I need to teach him how to recognize certain situations when something happens. Right? So then I said, okay. And then, being on the engineering side, I said, okay, let me see if I can do this on the ice. And obviously I don't have like a team. I wasn't coaching a team at the time. So I would bring on different types of technologies as stimulus. So it just like when you're doing a programming language, it's like if, then, else. If you see this, do this. Otherwise, do something else. So that if, then, else concept applies in the entire game. And so I would simulate that because it was just my son and I, because nobody believed in us at the time at all, right? They were making fun of us as I'm bringing equipment into the arena.
You're doing something different.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so I started putting things out there and I said, okay, if you see this, then do this. If you see this, then do that. And we did that for a full year, just as a proof of concept. I was happily working on my corporate job before. So I didn't have to do any of this stuff, but I did it for him. Then I realized his game started to improve because then the video started to make sense. So even to this day, I tell coaches all the time, the video is not the fix. The video will expose what they're
Mm.
doing wrong or what they're doing right. But the fix, you have to do it at ice level
Mm.
or, on off the ice. So we start to replicate all this stuff, and then it started to change. So then that's how we kind of started. And then over time, we have about 1,500 kids now that we work with.
Wow.
So yeah, and in this space, we simulate everything that we did in my basement, which is 200 square feet.
Woo.
And now we're at a 12,000 square foot facility.
Wow.
Oh
So-
my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get to that a little later on. I mean, just as far as like what you really need and what you don't need, and being really so active in this community, Satoshi. I think one of the things that that I get out of this, right? And this is where my Monday morning, after a weekend of watching hockey, and this is probably why I don't sit in the stands with a lot of people, is because of people mistaken hockey IQ and hard work and like aggressiveness, and they think like I mean, as you're speaking and as you're talking about, how do you read and react to a play, I'm thinking about every single dad that I heard this weekend when the puck got dumped in and that first player, and he's screaming and yelling about that player getting to the puck. I'm like, no, that player is actually reading to where the puck's going to go and then influencing where they want to go. Like, it's great to be fast and it's great to be quick and it's great to get there. But then when you get there, what are you going to do? Like, now you're below the puck, you're below the play, you have no influence on the play. I think to your point, what and the stuff that I've watched you do is so impressive to say, well, I'm reading it as I'm coming in. I don't need to get there fast. I've got to get there smart. Like, I've got to get there when I can control it rather than getting to a place where I can't control. Can you talk a little bit about, why like a system like yours is so important to take because of, I guess it's the same way we have to do a lot of this stuff now, right? Because in phys ed, we don't do it, right? We don't do the functional movement skills in phys ed anymore. We don't do the jungle gym stuff. We just don't, it's too unsafe, or it's not fair to everyone, or whatever it is. Can you talk about like why you've been so successful in filling that void? Because we just don't have time as coaches, right, in team practices to work on a lot of this quote unquote hockey IQ stuff.
Yeah, so usually I get the call when, and these are all like AAA kids that are mostly in Toronto. I usually get the call when they're not having a lot of success. And obviously the ones that are successful will keep going, and with or without us, that's fine. But the ones that recognize that something is still missing, right? So my kid is going to all the skill sessions and so on. But then that's when I usually get the call, and then we start to look at, okay, what is it that he's doing right? And what is it that he's doing wrong? And then they'll say, he's the fastest, he's the smartest, he's a 200-foot player, and use all these very general terms. But when you actually get down to it, it's really their decision making is way off. It's not even just a little bit, right? So because they're so fast, for example, like it's always a shock to on the players' faces as well as the parents when I say your kid is too fast, and they go, "What?"
Yeah.
And I say, "Yeah." So
they work hard, Satoshi. They work hard. That's why
yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah.
So and I think the other thing that I always tell players is you have to be more unpredictable. So hockey is probably, and sports in general, is probably the only thing where you're allowed to lie, right? Like, so when you think you're going one speed, all of a sudden you turn on the jets. When you have your jets on, all of a sudden you start to hit the brakes, and then you throw the other team off. And those types of concepts are not necessarily taught on the ice because, number one, ice is really expensive, and number two, there's not a lot of time. And then number three, you have a big group, usually like a team or a group of some kind. They just don't have that personalized touch to be able to offer. So that's why I think we're very successful, because the way I look at it is I treat all of our players like my own son when I developed him 10 years ago. And so that personalized touch of understanding how they play, what the video tells me, what the fix is, and then we confirm it again with the video. And so there's a whole continuum in terms of from when the first time they enter, then from the front door to then, okay, working with them and then seeing if they continue on. And our expectation is that they're not with us for like years. We only want them for a very short period of time, say about a year, a full season. And then once they get enough, they move on, and that's okay. And so that's essentially kind of the the steps that we go through, I think every player, even up to the NHL, could use something like this, because in the NHL, like, they didn't grow up with this stuff. Now we have 6-year-olds that are growing up with this stuff. So I'm really excited about what's coming in the next couple of years.
Satoshi, how important is it to get the whole team on board with the concepts? Because you might be able to help 1 or 2 players, but if the whole team isn't buying into it, then is it likely that that player will only succeed so far?
I think the team, showing the team, I think is really, really important, but probably very most challenging, right? Because it's hard to get 17 or 15, 17 players even just to do one thing, right? So try to show them a concept like this might be a bit of a challenge. But what happens is it's time, right? We know we're in a marathon. So first we start with one kid, then they bring their friends, and then they bring their team, and then all of a sudden it just starts to grow. And I think it's the patience that I think people don't have, right? They want instant gratification. Even in our training here, right? All of a sudden they're here, and then they're like, okay, well, all of a sudden my kid's gonna be smart. No. Right? Like this is like an ongoing process.
It's not the Matrix. Yeah.
I think it's one of those things too, when we're evaluating talent, right, at an early age. Like you get really you get mesmerized by the fast kid, and by the good hustler, and by the kid that gets to the puck first, and you lose track of that kid that they don't look like they're being aggressive, like they don't look like they're doing like something that you would expect at a hockey player, which is get there really quick and be aggressive and fight for pucks. And then you're watching some kids, like, to me, I'm like, well, I'd rather have that kid that's already smart and I can build on his skill, rather than a highly skilled kid that could never get the concepts that I want them to teach. Just to Christy's point, like, you can't have 15 players that are just bat out of hell fast and go after pucks. At some point that catches up. And I think us as coaches do such a poor job of evaluating the smart kid early, because it's masked by not having a lot of skill.
Right.
And I think we have to, and that's, so I guess my question is, Satoshi, like, I was always a big believer when this first came, like, I started looking at all this, the cognitive development stuff, and Reggie Grant used to do a lot of stuff with the New York Rangers. And I had these big, huge debates. Like, I was like, oh, no, you have to do all of this stuff on the ice. None of it matters if you can't do it on the ice. And I was brought around rather quickly, actually, that none of this has to be done on the ice. And this is all based on brain speed and your ability to react and read things, because your brain doesn't know you're not on the ice. Can you talk a little bit about why it's so successful not getting that ice slot? I mean, you're in Toronto, crazy amount of money for ice. I'm in Fairfield County, Connecticut, crazy amount of money for ice. And so at a minimal cost, why is it so important that we could train our kids without throwing skates on and gloves and helmets on and get the same results that we want out of like a hockey IQ?
Yeah. So and I'll kind of, show you some of the things that we're doing, but essentially the concept is this. Number one, the most important thing, you have to train faster than the game. And this is something that a lot of coaches don't understand. So my background is also in motorsport racing as well. So when I go to the racetrack, I'm going, say, 100 miles an hour, right? Maybe closer to 120. And I would do 25 laps on the racetrack. Then I would then go back into my own car to drive home that day. And I'm on the 401 over here, and I feel like I could do anything, right, at a very high rate of speed, because I was just on the track, right, for a good hour. So there I'm going, almost twice as fast as my regular roads, and then I get into my regular road, and it's like, okay, this is just painfully slow. So just that concept alone will get you much, much further than today. So that way, in any practice, if you look at any practice, they are never training faster than the game, right? The game is the fastest thing. So our concept is the complete opposite. Train faster in the game, so that when you're in your actual game, it starts to slow down. In order to do that, we have to do it off the ice, because it's super cost effective, or to be able to do it off the ice, because you can do it anywhere. You don't need a facility like this, and it's essentially a controlled environment, so you can simulate any game situation as long as the coach can articulate that clearly and have that kind of illustration in their head that, okay, this is what we're trying to do, right? These technologies are essentially to mimic that. So it's really important for coaches to put the kids in that game scenario, but they could do it in a on any dry land, right? They could do it in their own basement as long as they do it. And it just comes down to creativity, and we're also trying to help kind of build programs that will allow coaches to do that in a much simpler way. Like I do it a very manual way, but we're trying to use technologies to help alleviate that and then be able to extend that to the coaches.
Satoshi, are you able to show us some of the concepts?
I was just gonna say that the parents are gonna kill us if we don't ask that question,
Right.
Christy.
I'm gonna have to send you. I'll send you a video.
Yeah, because if you're listening in the car right now, pause it.
Yeah,
and then come watch the video, but don't try to watch it as you're driving. But I think but I think you'll just and Christy. I mean, I started watching Satoshi a while ago and kind of following his stuff and stealing as much as I could from him. And I think all of the stuff he was doing was like in this driveway.
Wow.
Like there was literally nothing. Like, I mean, again, not to diminish the facility, you got to
no.
But I mean, if you're at home and you're like, I don't have any money, I don't have access to these things.
Yes.
I it's just like Tommy Laidlaw talking about, flipping, tractor tires. Like you find a way, right? You find a way to do it. But I think to your point, and that's such a great concept for all our players and parents watching their own practices. Like you're absolutely right. Nobody trains faster than the game. And I think, and then when you go to the game, you wonder like, well, why can't you get there and get, read that? I go, I don't know. I've never even seen this speed before. Like the first time I've ever seen somebody go this fast before. So I think it really is it's a great visual to say, because I'm thinking to myself like, oh, I'm driving along and as a race car driver is probably like, oh, I see where the opening is there. And, oh, I know I can get around here. And they know that well ahead of time, right? It's happening. Like it's like when they talk about professional baseball players seeing the seam of a ball, right, and seeing the spin, and a normal person goes, well, that's you'll never. How could you ever do that? Look, I don't even understand the concept that you're talking about. And a professional athlete's like, no, I see the ball. Like I can read the ball. That's how my brain is working. And I think unless you do it and see it, right, and experience that, you have zero idea what they're talking about.
I can't wait to see it. Definitely send us some of those videos.
we will for the parents listening, we will share. And obviously, look, the easiest way is just to go follow this man, right? And his name is in the episode description for his Instagram. A couple thoughts. Just I write stuff down while we're talking here. One of the things about coaching at a high level, Satoshi, is that when you're coaching youth hockey parents, like you're giving your team essentially, right? There's not much. It's age based, who's on the team. But when you get older or when you get to the higher levels, we pick players based on this type of stuff. And I think that sometimes, especially in the youth ages, parents don't recognize that. And they're like, well, you have to be the fastest and the strongest. And like, those are good things to have. I'm not downplaying them. But when I'm putting together a team, I am looking for puzzle pieces to fit. And I always joke, it's like the old Nintendo game ice hockey. You can't have the same player 3 times. You're going to lose the game, right? So you got to find the puzzle pieces of who can see the ice, who can create open ice, who can receive the puck after that. So I'm only saying this, gang, because I think it's important from a player development. We talk about that all the time. Standpoint that you're investing time, not even money, into the development of the RQ. I always use the metaphor. Are you playing checkers or are you playing chess? Right? Very different games, right? And we have to be developing that. Satoshi, the other thing I wrote down here, and this is why we love you so much, is that the most dangerous phrase in the English language is "this is the way it's always been done." And what I love about you is what you said earlier about, well, I didn't really care that people were looking at me like we're different here. You bring an engineering background, you bring a science background, right? You're bringing other athletic abilities into this. Can you talk for a minute about the importance of looking beyond 6 inches in front of your face, that different specialties, different methods of training are so important to become well-rounded, to develop evolutions within this game? Because you have done that, right? And then I do want to talk about ReactView too. but like, can we talk about, again, engineering and science? You know, you say that to someone in hockey, they go, yeah, what does that have to do with it? Right.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that's a great point, and that's something that, you know, I come up against all the time. I hear it all the time, right? It's like, what are you doing? And that stuff doesn't work. And, you know, like there's a whole bunch of, like, for a while I was on these like meme videos about it, but really, you know, it's a mindset for me as much it is for the player, right? It's my ability to control my own environment and say, okay, this is what my kid needs. I don't care what your kids need. I know what my kid needed at that time 10 years ago. And so that was my North Star, right? A lot of trainers I know, you know, sometimes they don't have their own kids. They're, you know, they work for a living, they do other things, they don't have time. And so it's very hard for them to kind of get into the same mindset that I was 10 years ago. The other thing that I would say is, you know, COVID was a blessing, right? Because that's how we started in my basement. Then we moved it into the garage at my house, and that's what everybody knows me for back then. And we had 100 kids show up, right? So those 100 kids definitely didn't think I was out of my mind, right? So because that was my proof of concept, and I think that's really, really important. That if you are trying something, try, like, you know, something very small. Don't try to build a whole business around it, and just test it. Test and retest, and then you'll get feedback from different people going, hey, like, I want to be able to track this data. Oh, okay. So, you know, now we're all digital, but there's a whiteboard right back there. You could probably see it in the corner.
Yeah.
And I keep it there as a reminder of where I came from, because I used to keep all of my data by hand on that whiteboard.
Wow.
And but now we have a completely digital. We have 15 million points of data. That's different now, right? So everything was a test, and I just didn't listen. I didn't listen to anybody, because it's not that I thought they were wrong. It's just I'm just improving what they've already built. So I have nothing negative about what's out there today. It's just I just found a more efficient way. Let's put it that way. And being in engineering, yeah, you're always looking for efficiencies and innovation, right? So that's kind of the world I grew up in. So that's what I bring to the table, and we're constantly, you know, going into different. We're in different sports now too. Like, so we have soccer players, we got basketball. We got a basketball court back there. So we're doing something with basketball. We're also doing work with the seniors community as well. So what we started with hockey is now evolved into something so much bigger. But on the flip side, I learned from those other sports and activities that I then incorporate into the hockey training. So, for example, like, we have a lot of soccer players, and in soccer, the stuff with peripheral vision, situational awareness, scanning, looking over your shoulder, that's been done for like years before hockey even considered that.
Right.
So I learned a lot from our soccer players here, where they say, oh, okay, I play midfield. I need to do this. Okay. Now I'm going to transfer that into hockey, and because of that, we have a catalog of 400 drills now.
Wow.
So and we document every single one of them. We say, okay, here's what we need it for in a hockey situation. Here's how you'd use it. So that's it's grown significantly in that sense. I feel that, yeah, you just have to start small. Don't try to, you know, build this massive thing like overnight.
Yeah, I think don't overlook either the success of having multiple sport athletes in that building together. I mean, I remember when I was at Plymouth, we used to work out with the basketball guys all the time, and there's that crossover of like the triangle offense just started coming into play, and like, oh, the Bulls are winning everything, and all of a sudden hockey's like, well, we could do that. Like, before that, I never heard of those concepts, like that the concepts of movement and support and structure never really, you're like, get in your lane, get up and down the ice. And I think, being able to be in those situations where one athlete watching another athlete going, oh, wow, I love the way they turn their hips there, or I love the way they protect the ball, or I love the way they can scan. And, that the biggest thing right now is like shoulder checking, right? And looking and scanning before you go to the corner. Well, if you're a lacrosse player or you're a soccer player, you've been doing that since you were 3. So having those opportunities to do that in real time, and then like what you're doing is, and whether it's on a whiteboard or on a computer, right? You're documenting the ability to how fast did you recognize it? how fast did you do it, and did you improve? And if you can get faster and improve every time, that's so stimulating for kids. I mean, that's where the kids are like, wow, I love coming here because I know I'm improving. Like somebody's telling me I had a number here and now it's here and now it's here. And I think it's just, a really uplifting piece for an athlete to know that there's a measurable piece that I am actually improving. Not, hey, you look like you're getting a lot better. Well, am I? I don't know. Because if you're not winning, right? Because they don't always go hand in hand. Christy's point is if there's 15 kids on the team and they're not all training with you, you as the individual kid can't control whether the team wins. So sometimes you don't get to see the effects of how much you're improving based off the team concept. But you have to have some type of measurables within your own ability to know, did I get better or not?
Mm-hmm. Boy, I wish this was around when my kids were playing. The whole idea of scanning, decision-making, situational awareness, it wasn't a thing. And now that it is, and parents are listening, how do they know when it's time to invest in something like this? Are there a couple of boxes they need to check? Are there, some telltale signs that this could help your team, your player?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that it's different for every kid. Again, our youngest kids start at 6, and they go all the way up to the junior and the pro age groups. But I think it's one of these things that I consider a life skill, right? So it's not just about the hockey, and obviously we want to improve on their hockey skills, but it becomes more of a life skill, and we want to train kids for life, like as they're 16 to 18, that's when they're going to be driving a car, for example, and we want them to be some of the safest drivers. So it does spill over into other things, and so the type of parent that reaches out to us is already kind of thinking about that. They wouldn't call us if all they wanted to do was skate their kid and work hard and shoot 10,000 pucks like every day, right? So they're thinking, okay, there's got to be another element that my son or daughter is missing, and then it's just that awareness too for parents, and then go, okay, like how do we improve this? And video obviously is a good first step because that's an easy one, right? That's an easy one with live barn and so on. But then the how do I fix that problem is something that we do every day here. So this is, and the why as well. So I think it's important for parents to really pay attention to their kid. Don't think that your kid is the best in the world all the time. That even if they are the top kid on the team, well, what are other things that they can improve on? So I think it's just that awareness that they need to have for sure.
Yeah, I always like to bring up, and I'm glad you're going this direction, to Satoshi, because I will meet parents where they're looking for like a get-rich-quick type solution for their kid in the game. And I always tell them, I wish there was a magic thing we could do that's going to vault your kid to the next level. And there are things that will accelerate them for sure. But at the end of the day, there's not one thing. It's a culmination of a lot of things. So the question I have here is this, because we talk about what I'm about to say on this show all the time. If you haven't cultivated a love for the game, none of this will matter, right? Like, so I'm trying to say is you can't go running up to your 9-year-old with a tablet right now and saying, look, we're going to work on all this cognitive stuff right now. This is going to make you better. And the kid goes, but I want to play Fortnite. All right. And I know that's a frustration a lot of listeners have, right? And look, I'm not just saying, okay, go play Fortnite, but you have to cultivate this in your kid. If they don't have a desire to do it, and if you're not cultivating that desire, because we do play a role in that, right? First off, it's okay. It's okay. Like I think some people go, oh, they're never going to make it. Why are you thinking that way? You can't be thinking that way. That's the first step. And the second thing is, look, a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old has a right to be those ages and deal with those problems. So my question for you is this. I'm sure you have 8-year-old kids that are in it. They want to learn. They want to know. And I'm sure you know 8-year-old kids who could not care less. What is your message to the parents of both of those kids about where this fits into their development? And you said life skills as well.
Yeah, I always, like I said, I'll go back to, pay attention to your kid. Like, what is he like? What is he not like? The one example that I would give you is that we have a couple players that made it to the NHL that we've been working with since my garage days, right? Like,
Right.
and I could certainly tell you that those kids back in the day, and they were the same age as my son, back then. So I kind of had like the ability to kind of, not to sound unfair, but to compare, my son to these types of players, and it was, a difference in obsession.
There you go.
And the one kid that, that I'm thinking about, he was absolutely obsessed with the training. Like, he would not leave my house until I kicked him out. And
Time
he
to
would go,
go.
Satoshi, just one more, man, just one more. Just let me do one more. I got to beat this one. Let me just do one more. I said nothing, right? And I just let him do it. And I think it's important for coaches to also have the ability to, I call it green light, meaning let them do what they want to do. Like, if you think it's going to help them, then let them do it.
Right.
And so, so Dom is one of my goalies, and he just signed with the Winnipeg Jets, and he even comes to here to this day, where he's like, come on, man, just one more. I got one more.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that's great. Like, keep doing it. And that level of obsession, I think, is consistent across a lot of the players that I've worked with that made it to the NHL. So
yeah, I would agree. And I see that too. And I think the other half of this, and we can all chime in on this, is that parents, you can want your kid to have that obsession, but it's their life. I don't know how to really word this eloquently. It's like, this is one of those things, you don't create this for them. They have it or they don't, and different kids get it at different times, right? Like some kids that won't hit till they're 15 years old. But I wouldn't take a macro view. I said it earlier. You don't want to have the thought process of they're never going to make it if X, Y, Z. None of us know who's going to make it. All right. I will echo what Satoshi just said. When you see a kid with that obsession, yeah, a little light bulb goes off of, okay, there's something there. But you know what's funny for everybody is that obsession usually is not limited to hockey. That's their personality. That's who they are. They're going to obsess over everything they do, right? So again, there's no success or failure from a parenting standpoint in my mind on this. That's just life. It just progresses as it progresses. Anyway, Christy, Mike, I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's just a thought, like, it's okay either way. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think so. And, we talk all the time, and Satoshi, I'd love for you to enter in this conversation about some of our greatest successes have come from our failures.
Right.
And as you mentioned, these concepts you don't learn instantly. It takes time. You have to have patience. So there could be a couple of stumbles, some failures along the way as these kids are engaging in trying out these concepts, thinking differently. Um, Maybe some advice for parents of it's okay if your kids are failing because they're going to get better. They're going to learn from those mistakes.
yeah, absolutely. I always say repetition over trumps failure, right? So
There you go.
as long as you keep, working on something, and as long as you have somebody there, like whether it be a coach or a parent, to support them and say, don't worry, it's okay, you got this, that's what we do here. And a lot of the kids, they walk in for the first time, they don't know what they're getting into. They fall flat on their face because they're, this is completely new to them. I say, it's okay, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but we're going to pick you up, and then we're going to keep going. So and it's not a, we're not like a gym. Like, we don't have any weights in this building. So it's not about pushing harder beyond limits or anything like that. It's just repetition. So it doesn't feel as raw, right? Like, so that's why some people kind of go, oh, that doesn't work, because they're not being pushed like that hard. No, you're being pushed, you just don't know it, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I think I think failures is always welcome. And again, because this being a controlled environment where they can make the mistakes and no one's going to make fun of them, right? So I think those are the things that are important. The other thing I will say also that I've noticed through some of the parents here, the ones where I find that the kids really excel is when the parents actually say nothing. And this is such
You
a
go,
weird concept,
parents.
right? So they don't know hockey, right? They don't know about even the rules or anything. They let the kid steer the ship. And once a kid feels that they know more than the parents do, then they feel like they're in charge. So in other words, they start to pick their own equipment. They pick out their own food for the day. They know when to get up in the morning because the parents know nothing, right? And whether that's on purpose or if it's just by design or the way that they naturally are, those are the ones where I find that they just take off. The more the parents I find is overbearing and saying you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, the kid just tunes out. Number one. Number two, the kid will just go on autopilot, right? Because he's expecting the dad or the mom to just tell him when their next game is. And in fact, I ask some of the kids here, I'd be like, okay, when's your next game? They're like, I don't know. How do you not know when your next game is, right? I don't care how old you are, right? Like that type of basic information you should know, right? It's not just because the dad has team snap and he's not telling his kid, right? Like, and so the more that the kid feels that they're in charge of their destiny is when I feel I've seen it anyway. Like they really just go like this.
Well, we talk about that.
Take note.
Yeah, let the kids advocate for themselves. I mean, look, another thing on this, Satoshi, I love that you're bringing this up because I've seen it where there's a parent on the bench criticizing their kid horrendously for every mistake. Every mistake. You needed to do this. You should have done this. You can't do that. You are teaching your child to fear failure. You want to talk about stunting their growth. I've said this so many times. The entire game of ice hockey, most sports, this is true. The whole game is about capitalizing on the mistakes of your opponent. When you really think about when we've talked about finding open ice, it's because someone did not think to be there. All right, like the whole game is based on failure. So if you're stunting your kid's ability to fail eloquently, you are really going to hurt them long term. All right. Now, adversely, from a positive standpoint, another action item for coaches. The goal always gets all the glory, all of it, or even the big save. We can go the other way on this. And I always tell coaches, please, for the love of the hockey gods, also make sure you speak about the plays that created the big play, the big assist, or the finding of open ice to create the assist. You must mention these things. Or if the play started in the other end of the rink, you must mention these things to your kids and give them the reward of understanding you made a smart play that developed into a goal. Coaches, you got to see that. You got to see that, right?
So I'll add to that because a lot of the parents that are on the bench or coaching, I mean, some of these people, their day job, like they sit on on executive roles at big Fortune 500 companies.
Right.
I've seen them, right? But in a boardroom, they would never act that way that they would do on the bench.
Imagine if we
Ever.
did.
Right? Like, yeah, exactly.
You idiot.
So why is a 13-year-old a green light for the coach to be a completely different person when in the boardroom you would never do that?
Right.
So I think it's one of these things that I think I hope that parents listen to this because and if we were all in one room, we would never be saying, if Mike made a mistake, like I'm gonna beat him up and say that, oh, you made this mistake, that mistake. But you don't do that to adults. There's a certain way to do it.
Right.
Well, you don't even do it to children. Like if you did that, if you went to your phys ed class in school and a teacher did this, you'd be fired in about a second. Like it would never materialize. Like I don't know why we turn into these crazy people when we get inside the rink instead of being like a normal
ego, Mike.
human
it's
being.
All ego based.
But I was going to say, and I love the fact that what Lee's saying is just the ability to understand how plays develop and what leads to success and failure. If only there was a way, Satoshi, to be able to see that, document it, and share that with your athletes without having, $1 million NHL video coach relationship. Is there a way that I can show the beginning and the ending of a play simply, easily, and even with the technically challenged.
Mike, are you setting up a one-timer right now? Is that what you're doing?
I see it coming.
I'm just wondering because I need a solution.
Yeah, you bet. So we have an app called ReactView, and it's an extension of ReactForge, which is our parent company, and that was purely built for coaches and teams to be able to use video as a tool to allow them to learn how to play the game better. So it's to simply put, it's a whiteboard for video where you can do telestration, annotation. You could then also add your your voice over top of it as a coach. And then once you have that clip made out, you can immediately send that to all of your teams or a specific player that needs that type of help. But it's built both for like a team, like coaching a team, like a minor hockey team, or if you're a consultant for video, then maybe you've got 50 clients or whatever, you can use that as a platform to do that. Where I came up with that concept is really what we did here. So I had the parents ask me, Satoshi, like, how does this translate to my kid's game? And the answer was always video. But I ran into the same issue that everybody else does when they do video, which is how do you get the video, number one, and number two, how do you then be able to draw stuff and say this is what you're doing great, and these are the area of improvement, and thirdly, how do I get it so that the kids hear the coach's voice, right, not some third party. So to hear the coach's voice to say, Johnny, this is where you should have been, XYZ, and for them to hear that is validation for the kid. Right. And so I'm always on, pretending that I'm the kid that where if I heard my coach telling me, like, here's what I want you to do in that situation, because remember, like when a player is talking to a coach one-on-one, the coach is generalizing, right? He does not talk about specific, that in that moment you missed this, right? And that's what contributed to me, maybe right, having you sit on the bench for a little bit. So now it's become a lot more factual. And so that's how we kind of built it. We have about 450 users on the platform today. We've only had it for about 4 months. I've been working on this on and off for 2 years, but we really focused on it for the last 6 months.
It's so brilliant and so simple. At least I know it wasn't simple to make, probably, but it's so obvious. And what I love, Satoshi, is in if you guys check this out on Instagram or wherever, just look up ReactView. The simplicity of you had open eyes here, you had open eyes here, you had open eyes here. And it's like, as a coach, I'm like, man, that's so easy and simple, and it's undeniable too. The other thing too is that my belief is too
that it applies to that individual player. I mean, you could show it generically and say, here's a situation, but now you hone in specifically, and they can replay it in their minds and visualize right in front of them the mistakes they made and what a better option would have been. That's brilliant.
And Christy, to add on to that, and I've said this on the show, my belief is I try and coach the players that are on the bench during the game, not the players that are on the ice. But the truth is this: when you come off the ice and I have the whiteboard and I show you the situation, they're taking some of it in, but like we're in the middle of a game. Right, exactly. You know what I mean? So it's like you can only do what you're doing. But to be able to sit down and like you said, have them see a recording, Satoshi, and then the arrows. So obvious, so simple.
And that's the way kids learn now.
Right.
They're
visual learners.
It's the one thing I loved. I was actually in an NHL program last week with this guy Dan Singleton, who's a video coach in the NHL, and it was a great episode, right, to listen and learn about how the NHL and how college uses video. But to Satoshi's point, I think with his product, which I like, is that I don't have time, and nobody has time to have like a team video session. And then I know when I was growing up, like I'd be in a team video session and and like I'm getting ripped like in front of like 15 other people. Like this is not fair. Like this isn't even fun. Like so now, like whether you could be the hardest coach in the world, like you could be somebody like has no compassion for kids. You could rip a kid pretty good with this. Like this is what you are doing. This is why you're not playing. Or you could be the most uplifting person in the world because it's your voice. It's you giving that feedback and that background of saying, remember last practice when we talked about this? And I think what Satoshi has too is the ability to say, well, I'm going to draw it like this. Here's our practice. Right. Yeah. And then here's what you did in the game. And this is why you're not, these skills aren't transferring. Now, is a 6-year-old going to read that? what I like is that most parents, and Satoshi, you could correct me, right? Most youth hockey parents have access to their kid's account. So what's happening is not only you're teaching the parent or the kid, you're influencing the parent. You're saying, I'm speaking to you about what I'm trying to teach you. There is no middleman. There is no, hey, what did coach say today in practice? I don't know. When we work harder. No. This is exactly what he told you. He told you that if you keep going in his lane, you are going to get killed. Like, don't go here.
Well,
and
Mike, it's what did coach tell you? I'll show you.
Yeah,
I'll show you what he
not
told
even
me.
that. Well, here it is. Right here. So I think it gives us all time back. It gives us all this ability to communicate in a much easier, better way. And to your point, Lee, and mine, it's the simplicity of saying, I don't need to have like a separate computer and like a whole video team. Like, it's literally because I laugh. Like, I just laugh. Yesterday's game, watching my son play, there had to be 15 different people with iPhones taking video. I'm like, where does all this video go? Yeah. Like, what are you doing with it all? Like, is anybody even using it?
Saving it for the ESPN documentary.
I know all the parents. I'm like, I know you don't put that video anywhere. I don't even see it on Facebook unless it's a goal. So, like, to me, it's like, what are you doing with that? This gives you ability to actually do something.
Well, and I'll say a closing note on ReactView is that if you obsess like we do, it's the tool you've been looking for. But Satoshi, you said in one of your videos, you gave yourself an hour. How many clips? Do you remember how many clips you said you were able to make in an hour?
Yeah, so we do about 15 to 18 clips for every, say, 17 or 18 minutes.
I mean, that's insane.
So, yeah, it's insane. I know. Like I'm literally there's that one recording that I did from start to finish. I sped it up and just kind of did it. Like, that was really me breaking down the kids' game.
Yeah.
And it's done in minutes. It's not. Yeah. I'm not joking, right? Like, it's not something.
No, you show it in your video. I mean,
yeah, and Mike, you brought up a good point too. So, because I get a lot of feedback from some of the parents that are here where we do the video, they learn too. And they're sitting down with their kid, watching it together, hearing my voice, draw some stuff, and the kids actually. It's not just the kid; it's the parents that are learning too.
That's good.
So, well, that might be the thing that maybe that's how you sell it. The parents won't be on you anymore if you do this.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Satoshi, last question, and then we're getting low on time here. It's amazing what you've done over the last 5-6 years, right? And with ReactView and everything you said since COVID. We're at the dawn of the AI revolution, it looks like. Technology continues to accelerate. Where do you see all of this going, right? Like, what is the future of this in youth sports, in professional sports? Where is this going? How is this going to change the game?
So I think about that every day, because now we've got a platform that is obviously we use it internally, and then obviously we apply AI against the data.
Yeah.
We have 400 drills in this space, for example. So where we're going with it is essentially being able to say, okay, these are some of the good things. These are the areas of improvement. From there, we're going to tie that back directly to the 400 drills that we have here to say, here's how you fix it. So we could do that today. Yep. So that's amazing.
That's not the future. Yeah. That's now. Wow.
Yeah. It's now. Yeah. And then we'll eventually, we'll do pattern recognition. We'll know exactly, with a successful 3-on-2s, a 2-on-1s, and so on. So yeah, AI is going to change everything. And I don't think I would have this business today if I didn't have AI. So
wow.
Yeah. It's a big shift for sure.
I always tell people that fight it, I'm like, yeah, you're not going to win that. You're not going to win that fight.
No.
That's like the people like, this internet thing is silly.
Yeah.
It's never going to take off. Mike, Christy, any final thoughts before we close this out?
No,
this has been
you shared so many light bulb moments, even just for me. It's amazing. How you're able to elevate the game for kids who might be struggling, and some really simple concepts they can apply. And parents, I hope you take note, and also, think about how you can really push your kids' game forward. I mean, we spend so much time getting our kids in the gym and at the rink and drills, but here's something else that's going to help them not only on their hockey game, but with life skills as well. I love the fact that you mentioned defensive driving, situational awareness. So these are skills they're going to apply for for the rest of their lives. Worth the investment.
Yeah, I would just say take a look at his Instagram page. It's great. The commercials are great. I love them. Just the commercials alone. But I just think it's just like, just go in there and watch some of the stuff. It's all takeable and usable, and it's so simple. And if you really want to get into it, then go up and visit him up there, and maybe get a Tim Turk clinic in every now and then, and do some ReactForge work. But I think it's just a really cool thing to be able to. I mean, I think, Satoshi, share this with the world and give people an opportunity to say, well, I have a driveway that's 50 feet long. I can do that. Like that those are the kind of things you need: a cone and a stopwatch and some effort. And I think, then you can progress and move on from the better technology pieces. But I mean, these are all things, like you said, if your kid has drive and they want it, then just keep feeding them and feeding them and feeding them. And I think that's just another way to enhance skill development without having to get on the ice.
Well, I'll say this in closing too, gang. Obviously, Satoshi's handles will be in our description. Make sure you follow him. But Satoshi, what's really cool about this show, and we're well over 400 episodes, is, we get Hall of Famers on, we get lots of Olympians, everything, but we also get innovators. And you are so firmly in that, my friend. And I want to thank you with the panel here, because you're advancing the game, you're evolving the game. Yeah. And I think that is just as important as getting a game winner in a gold medal game or something. Exactly. Thank you so much for being here and spending some time with us today. And for the audience, again, Satoshi is going to join us on a quick ride to the rink. You probably should have your kids listen to that one if you've made it this far. But Satoshi, thank you so much for joining us on Our Kids Play Hockey today. Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much. And for any of the listeners that are out there, if you're in town for a tournament or something, just DM me and we're happy to do a tour for you for this facility. And we're very proud of what we've accomplished here, and we want to share it with everybody. And we get lots of people from all over the world. And we have programs that are designed specifically for people coming in from out of town. It's a compressed program. So we do something like that. And then we'll do stuff on the ice, and we'll have a ton of fun doing it. So it sounds like thanks fun. For having me. Yeah. And you guys should come. I think we might. I'll say this too in closing. Over 400 episodes. First guest to stand the entire time. The entire interview. That's pretty amazing for those of you not watching at home. All right. That's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Remember, if you have questions, comments, thoughts, episode ideas, email us at team@ourkidsplayhockey.com. Or there's a link accompanying the episode in the description. Click that. Let us know your name, where you're from. You can text us anything. We'll do it. But for Satoshi Takano, Christy Casciano, Burns, Mike Benelli, I'm Lee Elias, gang. We'll see you on the next Our Kids Play Hockey. Our Kids Take Hockey. Our Kids Play Hockey. Take care, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.